Before any major change, a purposeful pivot in one's life or career, there lies a journey of self-discovery. The decision to change paths, whether motivated by personal fulfillment, professional growth, or simply the realization that a new direction is needed, never occurs in a vacuum. It is, instead, the culmination of introspection, questioning, and an honest appraisal of where one stands with respect to their values, skills, passions, and aspirations. To understand what it truly means to make a purposeful pivot, one must first embrace the process of looking inward. This, in itself, is an act of courage and clarity, accepting where you are, what you have outgrown, and what you desire to become. The seeds of self-discovery are often sown in moments of discomfort. Perhaps it's a gnawing sense that the current job, lifestyle, or environment no longer brings joy. Maybe it comes from repeated signs, subtle and overt, that your efforts are misaligned with what you value most. Or perhaps a pivotal event shatters the illusion of certainty, confronting you with the need for deliberate change. In these moments, the narrative begins, not of abrupt transformation, but of a patient unveiling of the self. Self-discovery is not a linear process. It unfolds through reflection, experience, and, sometimes, resistance. It asks hard questions. Who am I when stripped of my titles and achievements? What excites me, even when no one is watching? What have I tolerated because it was familiar, not fulfilling? What does success truly mean to me? Only by sitting with these questions does one begin to separate the inherited narratives from the authentic voice within. During this stage, it's easy to overlook small yearnings, those fleeting moments of wonder at someone else's life, the quiet thrill when witnessing a skill you wish you'd pursued, the sense of resonance when you imagine a different kind of day. These are clues, fragments of inner truth. Paying attention to them is akin to assembling a mosaic. Each piece may seem inconsequential on its own, but together, they reveal a larger picture of who you are and where you might derive meaning. For many, self-discovery involves the identification of core values. Values act as an inner compass, guiding decision-making even when the path seems unclear. Some people turn to structured exercises, such as writing out their beliefs or reflecting on peak moments in life, to articulate these values. Others learn by noticing when they feel most alive, or conversely, most stifled. Patterns emerge: the drive for autonomy, the desire for connection, the creativity that craves expression, or the purpose found in serving others. Another facet of self-discovery is the honest evaluation of strengths and weaknesses. This is not an exercise in self-criticism, but in self-awareness. What qualities have others consistently noticed in you? Which tasks come naturally, and which drain your energy? When you look back at achievements, large or small, what capabilities did you draw upon? Likewise, acknowledging your limits does not mean settling for less, but understanding where you might need support, growth, or reinvention. As clarity builds, self-discovery nurtures both self-compassion and ambition. Recognizing that past choices were made with the knowledge and resources you had fosters kindness toward yourself. At the same time, seeing areas of untapped potential awakens the drive to create change. This dual awareness, that you are both enough and still evolving, becomes the foundation from which a purposeful pivot can arise. It is during the phase of self-discovery that one realizes change need not be a reaction to crisis. Rather, it can be chosen proactively, grounded in a thorough understanding of the self. Consider the difference between fleeing a stressful job and moving deliberately toward a calling. The first is rooted in escape, often leading to repeated cycles of dissatisfaction. The second flows from insight, clarity, and intent, giving the pivot meaning and increasing the likelihood of lasting fulfillment. This process is not always solitary. Conversations with mentors, friends, coaches, or even new acquaintances can illuminate aspects of ourselves we might overlook. Sometimes, hearing our story reflected in another's experience brings validation or a fresh perspective. Seeking feedback, asking for honest reflections, or sharing tentative dreams with people who want the best for us provides both affirmation and challenge. Journaling is another powerful tool in this stage. Regularly writing down thoughts, hopes, frustrations, and imaginings allows patterns to reveal themselves. Over time, the journal becomes a mirror, a place to track evolution, vent doubts, and crystallize decisions. For some, more creative or somatic practices such as drawing, meditation, movement, or even mindful walking create openings for subconscious truths to surface. The terrain of self-discovery is not always comfortable. It unearths fears, the fear of failure, of disappointing others, or of stepping into the unknown. It can bring up old wounds or internalized messages about what is practical or acceptable. Recognizing these fears is as crucial as celebrating strengths. Overcoming them often means reframing risk as necessity. To remain stagnant is, in a way, the greatest risk of all. As you move through self-discovery, the vision of a purposeful pivot crystallizes. This is the moment when the why becomes clearer. Are you seeking greater impact, deeper satisfaction, or alignment with a long-held dream? Are you driven by the desire to grow, to contribute, or to explore new capacities? The answers anchor your motivation, framing the pivot as an act of agency rather than an accident of circumstance. At this juncture, clarity about the core elements of a fulfilling life emerges. What do you want to feel each day? What kind of relationships and community do you wish to nurture? How do you want your time to be spent, and what role does work play within that larger tapestry? With these insights, you begin to envision possibilities, roles, projects, or environments where such desires might take root. Significantly, self-discovery before the pivot allows for experimentation. Instead of leaping blindly, you can start by trying on new identities in low-risk ways. Volunteer in fields that intrigue you. Take classes or workshops to build skills in unfamiliar territories. Shadow professionals whose careers you admire. Even dabbling in side projects or creative endeavors can provide valuable data. Does this new pursuit energize or exhaust? Does curiosity deepen with exposure or fade upon closer inspection? Furthermore, through self-discovery, you discover your non-negotiables, the aspects of life you are unwilling to sacrifice, even in the pursuit of newness. These boundaries protect your well-being during a pivot. For example, the realization that time with family or flexibility is essential may shape what opportunities you consider. Likewise, recognizing conditions that foster your best work, such as autonomy, collaboration, or continual learning, guides your choices. An integral insight of self-discovery is the acceptance that pivots can be incremental. The myth of the radical overnight change is just that, a myth. More common is the gradual shift, an evolving sense of self, a slow building toward a tipping point, and then a visible step. Because self-knowledge is dynamic, the path may be non-linear. You may take steps forward, pause, or even briefly retreat. All are valid expressions of growth. The process of self-discovery also encourages you to revisit your story, to look at the narrative arc of your life so far and identify persistent themes. Perhaps you notice a pattern of creativity, a commitment to justice, or the ability to bring out the best in others. Understanding your story helps you see your pivot as a logical next step, not a rupture. The chapters behind give coherence to those yet to be written. Resilience is forged during self-discovery. You develop assurance that, even if the pivot is daunting, you are equipped to handle challenge and uncertainty. This fortitude is built by reflecting on past moments where you navigated change, recalling the strategies that worked and the support systems that sustained you. The more you get to know your own adaptability, the less intimidating the unknown becomes. Another valuable outcome is the sharpening of decision-making skills. You learn to discern the difference between fear and intuition, between the discomfort of growth and the warning signals of misalignment. In this way, self-discovery before the pivot creates not just readiness, but also discernment, a filter through which future choices are evaluated. This process does not mean waiting for perfect clarity before taking action. Rather, it is an evolving foundation. As you learn more about yourself, you become ready to make more confident, conscious decisions. The pivot is never entirely risk-free, but it is grounded. The work of self-discovery ensures that, whatever the outcome, you are moving toward what matters most to you. Moreover, the process of self-discovery before the pivot is not wasted time. Even if your path veers or your goals change, the self-awareness you build remains an asset. You are equipped for the rest of your life to sense when another pivot might be needed, and to approach it with grace and resilience. Self-discovery, then, is both a preparation and a continual practice. It marks the difference between a reaction and a purpose-driven shift. Within its unfolding, you come to trust yourself more, to know not only your limits, but also your capacity to grow into something new. It is useful, too, to remember that self-discovery is influenced by the worlds you inhabit. The environments, cultures, and communities around you shape your beliefs about what is possible and desirable. Taking time to step outside familiar settings, to meet new people, encounter new ideas, and see different ways of life, can spark insights that would otherwise lie dormant. Exposure broadens horizons, suggesting paths once invisible. As you journey through self-discovery, be patient with yourself. Clarity does not always arrive on demand. There may be moments of doubt, frustration, or impatience. Rest assured, every step, every journal entry, every conversation, every experiment builds toward insight. Trusting the process is as important as reaching the destination. Emerging from this period of self-searching, you find not just the impetus for a purposeful pivot, but also the resources to thrive during transition. You know what you are moving from and toward. You understand what will anchor you through ambiguity. The pivot becomes less about abandoning the old and more about integrating your evolving self into a new chapter. In the end, self-discovery before a purposeful pivot is an act of honoring your potential. It is a declaration that life is not something static to be endured, but something dynamic to be created. Letting go of what is no longer true for you makes space for what might become true. Walking this path, you give yourself permission to change, to dream, and to realize a life that reflects who you are and who you are still becoming. This perspective does not guarantee that every pivot will be easy or every pursuit successful. Life retains its uncertainty, but with a foundation of self-awareness, every step can be intentional. Even setbacks become sources of learning, even uncertainty, a testament to courage. And so, when the time comes to make your move, you do so not to escape, appease, or conform, but to express more fully the truth you have uncovered in yourself. The purposeful pivot is not a leap of desperation, but a step, sometimes bold, sometimes tentative, toward the life that now calls. And it is, above all, a testament to the enduring human capacity for renewal, reinvention, and self-directed growth.